I'm actually a little bit older. I'm 56. So I remember when I was in school, that was something that you had to have. You had to have, I want to say PE was required. I want to say that I was not the greatest PE person, so I don't know how I passed that course, but I managed to pass it so that I could get my diploma and everything. But I want to say that that was required, some sort of wellness degree was required in the state of North Carolina, because I live here now, but I went to school here as well. But it seems to me that just like we've gotten away from arts, it also seems to me that we've gotten away from physical activities in school and of any sort. I mean, not trying to say that everybody's got to be like a certain size or a certain anything, because I mean, exercise is supposed to be for everybody. But it seems to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have young kids or kids really. So I mean, I have a stepson, but he's 26. So
right.
I didn't go through like the younger school, and he did have exercise when he was in school. I mean, when I was in school, I played sports all year round. I mean, I played basketball in the winter and tennis in the fall and soccer in the spring and kickball in the summer. I was always on a sports team. I stayed working out, like constantly physical, but I just was always a bigger person, and that's just how I'm built.
Right.
You know what I mean? It is what it is. But I don't know where, physical education is now in schools. I do see a lot. I live in New York City. I do see a lot of studios and different things reaching out to kids in the community, which I think is awesome. I don't know if that's because the areas maybe need that and there's not enough physical education in the school. I'm not sure. But I think wellness in general for so long has just been considered like a luxury, like a woo-woo kind of type of thing that if you're not, rich with extra time and money, wellness isn't for you. And that's how it's been marketed for such a long time too, and I think that now we really are looking at how important it is for everybody and that it's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Right. I mean, it's definitely a necessity. I mean, one of the greatest things, and I was the world's worst track athlete, but at the time that I was in school, and like I said, that was way back in the ice ages of the 70s, I thought that I was going to, at some point in my life, be an Olympic runner and maybe possibly run a marathon. I haven't done any of that, but that's what my vision was as a young kid, and I was like, I'm going to do this. So I joined the track team, and as I've said on this show before, I was like Charlie Brown. I mean, I think that I might have finished, less than a good distance because of thinking that, if I didn't finish last, I probably was next to last. I think I beat somebody one time, and I was happy. And then I actually, come back to the whole wellness journey and everything. Mm-hmm. I was so bad that I actually recruited a friend of mine. He has passed on many years ago, but I recruited him because I knew I could beat him. I mean, that's the only reason I recruited Jimmy Robinson was because I was tired of losing.
That's a bad attitude right there.
I know it is. And I should be ashamed of myself, but I recruited Jimmy because I knew I could beat him. So as a just 17, 18-year-old kid of maybe 16, I was like, look, Jimmy, and we'd actually won the state championship. I think we lost my senior year because we couldn't have anybody that could launch pole vault and some other things that they couldn't do. So we wound up losing because the way the high school was set up, it was like 10, 11, 12 was in one building. 9th grade was actually the junior high, but because most high schools are 9 through 12, if you were in the junior high, which is in 9th grade in our school system, you could still join the track team. But I know 9th, 10th, and 11th, I think we won our conference championship. We lost our 12th year, my senior year, and part of that was probably because I recruited Jimmy because I could beat him. And I know that was
and
a
you
bad
know what?
attitude.
You should always recruit people on your team who will uplift you and help you do really well.
and that's what I generally did because, I mean, I was horrible. And I knew I was horrible, but I was also a good recruiter. So I would go to friends of mine that were football players and maybe a couple of basketball players and other good sports, and I knew that they were good. So I know that most of those years, I would be there and be like, look, I need you on my track team. And I think the coach basically probably almost considered me like his assistant recruiter. He's like, well, Mark will make sure we got a good team. Because the only thing that they required back then for you to make the team, which was actually kind of a good idea, was they basically ran those suicide runs. And if you survived,
I remember those.
And if you survived, you owned the team. That was the method of cutting. It wasn't whether you were good, like the football team and the basketball team. It's probably more like skill position. But as far as the track team was concerned, they just ran you to death. And if you were good, then they made the team. But one of the things that I tell people about that is that I remember running that mile. We would run like from the high school down many miles around the Market, which is a small town. And I think we got a couple of more listeners, so I'll finish this story. But I remember the funniest thing to seeing was some of these people would literally, like, run into the corner store. Because I just said we'd be running, and if the coach wasn't following us, you would, like, see this beeline of high school kids running into the corner store buying junk food. And I'm sitting there going, like, wait a minute, are we supposed to be training? But they're grabbing chocolate, sodas, and steady throwing them down while they're running.
So bad. So bad.
Yes, we were so wrong on so many levels. Hopefully you'll stay with us. I want to find out who else is on the call, but don't go anywhere because I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. I won't. I'm here. Okay, thank you. Dean, we got some other people?
Yes, we have two at the door. We have Tony Alderman and Mike Messier. They're going to bring them in, but real quick, I got to drop this real quick on everybody. It's Straight Talk with Dean and Mark, but listen to this for 1 second.
Are you enjoying the smoothest conversation in podcasting? Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. Hi, this is DJ Smooth Jazz, syndicated radio host and co-owner of Portfolio Group LLC, your smooth jazz lifestyle and entertainment group with offices in Durham, North Carolina. Portfolio Group LLC specializes in promoting the lifestyle of smooth jazz listeners with the promotion of smooth jazz events and the distribution of African-American owned wines. For more information, portfoliogroupllc.com, or you can swing by my secondary site, djsmoothjazz.com. Now back to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
Well, I appreciate that.
Now,
by the way, we appreciate that, and we've actually had Donald on the show along with the owner of that particular wine company, Shoe Crazy, so definitely have to give them a shout-out. She's been quite well in getting into major stores. I think she might even be in some places around New York and things of that nature. So since you like a good glass of wine, don't forget to, you might, if you haven't tried Shoe Crazy, Margot, check them out. It's a black-owned sister out of Virginia, and she's got a couple of good wines.
I will totally check it out.
All right.
Cool. And real quick, I'm going to bring in the other guest. But speaking of New York, another good friend of mine is Celeste Betty, and I know you probably know her. But I don't know what you're a beer person. But she
Harlem Brewing Company, brother.
Yeah, Harlem Brewing Company. Cool. But let's bring Tony in first. Because Tony has come from a disaster area, so I want to know what you got to say about that, and then we'll bring in Mark Messier as well. So let's bring in Tony first.
We have him here. Mr. Alderman, you are on Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Glad to be here.
Hey, I appreciate you, Tony. How are you doing, Tony? Tony I've known for quite a while. Tony is a family of artists. I mean, his son is done everything from acting to everything else. His wife is a artist. He is an artist and a photographer. And one of the places that he did his work at was an area that we know was impacted deeply because he was actually down there on the coast of North Carolina, and we know that was definitely an area that was impacted by our recent storm, and I think he just recently came back from there, so he can tell us as to how they're doing. But I know the first time that I talked to Tony, he was telling me about how that area was already in a depressed area even before the storm because, unfortunately, you know, it's fishing, and fishing is not a glamorous industry, so a lot of the kids, I remember when I wrote a column about this for one of our local newspapers, we were talking about how a lot of kids were not getting into fishing because, you know, it's not a glamorous field. You don't make a lot of money. I mean, so there were different reasons, but they were not getting into the field, even though that was kind of what their families made their money off of. Is that still the case, though?
You know, yes, it is. It really is. It's such a hard life, and a lot of times when these kids get out of these small fishing communities, they get to high school, graduate, and then they go to college, and then they don't come back because, like you said, it's not a lot of money. The risks are very high, and it's a seasonal thing. It's like if you were a farmer, it's farmers of the sea. They're depending upon the weather and the cycles of the ocean, and then something like this hits us, and it wreaks real havoc with it.
Oh, I'm sure it wreaks a lot of havoc. And you just recently came back. Where did you go down to the coast of North Carolina? I think I was looking on your Facebook page, and it sounded like you had just gone back to check with some of your friends and family. And I can't remember if you had some property down there, but it looked like you were probably checking to see how things were going. And I know that storm was just a couple of weeks ago, so folks are still coping with it. And, of course, if we get any more rain, there's more danger of more flooding. So where did you go, and how are things going?
Actually, I went down to to Varnumtown, which is a little fishing community around Holden Beach area. So it's about 20 miles south of Southport. When I went down, you could not even get into Southport. It was still separated. One of the roads was completely washed out, and the other was underwater. So we couldn't get into there. But I went down to Varnumtown, and a really interesting thing that happened. The reason I went down that particular day was because whenever a big storm like this comes up, the fishermen, especially the shrimpers in their large boats, will take their boats up the river. So the Lockwood Folly River goes right through that section by Holden Beach, and it is a very small river, and it snakes up a long way. So they carry these boats up the river, and they tie them off all four corners. And so when I went up, there were 14 boats up the river, and this tells you the difference between the depletion of the fishing industry in general. 20 years ago, there would have been 40 boats up that river, but this time there were 14 boats up. So I went up. I got the call the day before that they had all survived the hurricane, and the waters had come down enough to where they could start to come down the river. So they all do this in one big lump, because if you're the highest guy up the river, you can't get down the river because all the other boats are in your way. So they all do this at one particular time. So I went up and was able to ride one of the boats coming down the river when they all let loose and on their way back down into town, which is actually a really joyous time. But yeah, they took a beating. And the worst part about it now, and a lot of people don't realize it, is that for the communities now, right at the water, we know that they lose their houses. You know, that we know that there's damage there, but we don't think about the ecological damage that happens in the area. So Southport, right at this moment, a lot of it smells like a cesspool because there's huge fish kills. And these fish kills, these fish on the river are just settling, and the aromas from the joyous things that happen there haven't had time to wash on out to sea. So it's kind of in a lot of ways, you're glad that the storm is over, but now the big ramifications come on because of the aftermath of it. It's
right. One of the things we've been doing before I brought you on and everything was I was talking to Margot, and she's, of course, the person that's very much into the wellness community and everything. But it seems to me that community, just in general, that with people leaving and being an older community and things of that nature, that a lot of times, and in an industry that is almost like a dying industry, that whole thing of just trying to have a well life is something that is also a struggle for these people as well, because a lot of times, like I said, I mean, what some people would consider a dying industry because of the way that corporate farming is, corporate fishing is out there and things of that nature. So a lot of times they're struggling just to maintain their own life and to live a positive lifestyle.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest, you don't want the, that's what I'm trying to say is that the fish that we normally get from, that we have in our restaurants and things like that, the majority of that fish comes from China. And the majority of the shrimp that you eat in restaurants and stuff is not local shrimp. It's imported shrimp. So there's a big, there's sort of a big movement at the coast now. We have NC Cats and Brunswick Cats and Carteret Cats, and these are catch groups are groups that promote local live caught fish. And so these groups are helping to promote the buying and selling of our North Carolina fish. So yeah, it's hard because, like you say, our fish that we eat in our stores generally don't come from North Carolina.
Wow. So a lot of times this is an industry that's very difficult. And like I said, I remember, what have you done recently with that exhibit? Because I remember you had an exhibit that basically showed some of these people and what they were doing and how their life was. And I remember even looking at some of the pictures, it just kind of like caught you the hard lives they were living. Because a lot of times they were not living in the nicest houses in the world. They were just trying to live in a house that they could survive in while taking the boats out and surviving. So what is going on currently with the exhibit, and have you had a chance to take it to other places so that people can understand what is happening in coastal America, not just in North Carolina, but up and down the East Coast, and even on the West Coast and other parts?
Yeah, we've had, actually the exhibit has gone to, we actually had it in Duke Hospital for a little